5 minutes. That's what she gave me to hand over my daughter before she'd call the cops. That's all. 5 lousy minutes, like she was the judge, jury, and executioner of our little town. She had no clue who she was really dealing with. That's what still gets me. The HOA president, Karen Prescott, stormed my ranch that morning with a whole angry mob behind her, screaming into a megaphone that my 12-year-old daughter was some kind of juvenile delinquent. I mean, imagine waking up to the sight of your neighbors live streaming your front gate like it's the latest true crime show. Karen already had a reputation. She'd wrecked 3 families in 2 years just to get her claws on their land, and now it was obvious she had her sights set on mine. But the look on her face when I opened that gate and she saw the brass Sheriff Lucas Harper plaque, let's just say her ghost white reaction almost made me laugh if I hadn't been so furious. See, that morning started like any other sun burning off the last of the mist. Long shadows spilling across the pasture until I saw a crowd gathering by my fence. There was Karen standing in her designer heels like she was leading an angry parade, jabbing her finger at the air as if she was conducting some twisted orchestra. Behind her, about 20 folks with their phones out, capturing everything for the world to see. My daughter Sophia, pale as Karen's fake smile, stood next to me on the porch, clutching my arm. Karen's voice boomed. Lucas Harper. I know you're in there. Your daughter let those horses loose last night, destroyed community property. That's what she was yelling. But here's the truth. That morning, I'd found our fence cut clean, straight, deliberate. Someone had snuck in, let our horses out, and now Karen was making a show of blaming Sophia for it. I could see Tom Reynolds in the crowd looking guilty, but like the rest of them, he kept his mouth shut. Folks were scared of Karen, and honestly, for good reason. She'd sued neighbors for less. I walked to the gate, all eyes on me. Karen held up a letter, HOA letterhead, and all practically waving it like a battle flag. 5 minutes, Harper, she shrieked. Hand over your delinquent daughter, or I'll call the real authorities. The crowd murmured some nodding along, but I just stared at her. 10 years as sheriff, and I'd seen bullies before, but none as slick as her. I opened the gate, let everyone see the badge, and the plaque reminded Karen she was looking right at the law. You wanted to call the cops. You're looking at him. My daughter did nothing wrong. Someone cut our fence. When I find out who they're facing charges. For a second, Karen's whole act wobbled. But then she came back even stronger, all fake outrage, calling me corrupt for investigating my own family. This is why we need the HOA, she cried. You're abusing your power. If you don't comply, I'm calling the state police. She actually pulled out her phone and set a timer. Beep. 5 minutes. I felt Sophia shaking beside me, trying not to cry. Karen's tirade kept coming. She threatened to go over my head, made up stuff about community values, and I just stood there seething. I caught myself tapping my fingers on my jeans. An old habit from the Marines helped keep my cool. Listen carefully, Karen, I said, my voice steady. I catch criminals for a living, but what you're doing is just plain unethical. The crowd gasped, phones pointed right at me. Karen's face twisted, but she didn't back down. 5 minutes, she snapped again, setting her phone alarm for everyone to hear. I pulled Sophia close, her voice muffled in my shirt. Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I believed her. She'd grown up on this ranch, never careless. This was a setup, and Karen was behind it. I made a silent promise right then I'd protect my daughter from anyone, especially a power-hungry HOA president. As Karen's phone timer beeped, the crowd watched like they were waiting for blood. Time's up, she announced, grinning. I'm calling the state police. But I had a surprise for her security cameras. Later, watching the footage, I saw a shadow sneaking along the fence carrying something sharp. Looked a lot like one of Karen's closest friends. Next day, I headed to the station to review the footage properly, figuring Sophia would be safe at home. I wasn't even halfway through my first coffee when I got a text from Sophia. Dad, Mrs. Prescott is at the gate saying weird stuff about my future. I'm scared. That was it. I was out the door, breaking every speed limit I'd ever enforced. When I got home, Karen was standing by the gate alone, waving a thick folder. Sophia stood on the porch, phone in hand. Smart girl recording everything. I heard Karen saying it'd be a shame if a report from a respected leader closed doors for her at good schools. She was threatening my child's future. I stood between Karen and my daughter, hands clenched. Get off my property, Karen. Now! She backed away, but not before tossing out one more threat about structured environments and what's best for Sophia, implying she'd try to take my kid. Sophia broke down on the porch. Dad, am I ruining everything for you? She sobbed. That about wrecked me. You're the best thing in my life, I told her. Karen's just a bully, and she doesn't know who she's messing with. That night, I called my deputy, Ryan Caldwell. Dig up everything on Karen Prescott, I said. Turns out she'd pulled the same tricks before, intimidation lawsuits forcing families to sell. But we needed hard proof. That's when Sophia whispered, I recorded her dad. Was that okay? My heart just about burst with pride. 3 days later, things exploded. Karen brought news vans and cops to our front gate, cameras rolling her screaming about child endangerment and unsafe environments. Officers came up the driveway. Sheriff, we need to check on your daughter. I let them. They found Sophia inside, working on her math homework, safe and happy. Karen, desperate, turned on the theatrics, but then Sophia stepped out and told the cameras, Mrs. Prescott keeps saying I'd be better off living somewhere else. I don't want to leave my home. The whole crowd could see what was really going on. After that public fiasco, my neighbor Dorothy Bennett finally decided enough was enough. She sat me down over coffee, told me stories about Karen running families out of town for profit, always with some developer waiting in the wings. Dorothy even had proof emails, financial records, the whole deal. And just in time, too, because Karen was working overtime to get me suspended. She pushed the city council, cooked up accusations, twisted every action I'd taken as sheriff to look like corruption. Next thing I knew, I was hauled into the mayor's office, forced to turn in my badge and gun suspended while they investigated abuse of power. Sophia found out online, her face streaked with tears. People posting horrible things about both of us. It felt like we'd lost everything. I sat in the barn that night talking to the horses, telling my late wife I'd failed. But that's when Ryan showed up with a beer, sat with me in the quiet, and reminded me bullies only win if good people stay quiet. Next day was the big HOA meeting. Karen, now fully convinced of her victory, strutted around like a queen. She had a whole presentation about saving Sophia from my unfit care, complete with resources for foster care and real estate listings for my ranch. It was a full-on coup. But Dorothy stood up, connected her phone to the speakers, and played the recordings. Karen's voice cold and venomous, detailing her plans to run us out to ruin anyone who got in her way. The crowd went dead silent. And then Sophia, clutching her own phone, played her recording, Karen threatening her, laughing about how this town belongs to me. The whole room heard it. The officers on scene cuffed Karen right then for harassment and criminal threats. Her reign was over. After that, things changed fast. The city lifted my suspension, and Ryan decorated my office with a banner, Justice Better Late Than Never. Dorothy was elected interim HOA president. The state pressed charges racketeering, extortion, harassment of a minor. Karen Prescott got 5 years. Dorothy tossed out every ridiculous HOA rule, told folks to paint their fences any color they wanted, and the town started healing. Sophia and I turned our ranch into Freedom Ranch, a place where kids could come learn to ride, stand up for themselves, and just be kids. You know, I used to believe that following the rules was enough, that if you were honest and good, justice would take care of itself. But the truth is, sometimes justice needs a little help. Sometimes you have to fight even when the whole world's stacked against you. So, what about you? Ever dealt with an HOA tyrant? Ever seen someone go too far in the name of community? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's talk about what real justice looks like and what happens when a small town stands up to a bully.